Should I get a forever home or a starter home? So I had a friend in Australia who, early in his life, he bought a very small little studio, and he paid that off while he was working in a hardware store, and he paid that off while other people were still in school, and then he ended up buying a bigger condo, and today he has multiple homes, and he earns all his income from, basically having many homes and renting them out. So that's a brief story. You've probably heard that kind of story from many other people, but it's a good story to tell and remind yourself, just get into the real estate market. Get yourself something. If you can't afford your forever dream home, well, don't worry about it. Just start with something. That's what a starter home is. Just get a footprint, start with something, and start building your equity, start building your nest egg, and eventually you'll get to your dream home, whatever that is. The number one thing you want to take into consideration when house hunting is location. You've heard it before, location, location, location. A quick story. My dad was an architect. He had this saying, he said, buy the worst looking house on the best street. And the moral of that story is, if he bought a house in an area of Australia where I grew up, they got it for under $50,000 in the 1970s. And it wasn't in great condition. They did a little remodeling on it, and just before the year 2000 they sold it for over $1 million. So that's separate from the fact that it was a great house, but location is everything. Last video I was talking about when you're house hunting, location is the number one consideration. There's two aspects of location. First of all, how is it in terms of an investment? Is that in the long term, is that house going to appreciate by a great value? Great news about Las Vegas. Pretty much any place you buy in Las Vegas is going to appreciate really well in the next decade or two plus. Then, there's another, in a more general sense, if you're thinking about location within Las Vegas, then there's a number of consideration factors you should use. One is obvious, is it close to work, schools and neighborhoods? Maybe you have parents, or family and friends. So they're the main aspects to consider in your location. In terms of house hunting, we've already talked about location is your number one consideration. Where is the house located? Close to work? Is it a good investment in the long term? But then here's a great also starter tip. Maybe you're buying a starter home. If that's the case, you want to ask the question, is this a house I can see living in for 5 to 7 years? And some considerations for that is, what does your future look like in maybe 5 to 7 years? Are you close to starting a family, for example? So are there enough rooms? Are you going to have a job relocation, in the next 5 to 7 years? And is the home well maintained? Is it going to need major structural or other kind of work within a short period of time? These are really important questions. Write your answers down on a piece of paper. That's going to give you a really good clue if a home you're looking at is going to be right for you. Pets are an important consideration. For about 68% of new home buyers consider the community's attitude towards pets as really important in their decision. Maybe there's policies, in the community about pets that influences their decision. And 3 other factors you should think about if your pets are in your life is, 1, do you have a yard in the back that's going to be big enough for your pet? What's the nature of the flooring? Generally, you don't want to have too much carpet. It's better to have hardwood floors or vinyl plank flooring. It's easy to clean up messes. And secondly, within the home itself, is there enough room for you and your pet? So there's some factors to consideration if you have pets, and that's a really important consideration in your home choice. When you're buying a home and you're house hunting, don't base your decision on some things that are easily fixable, such as the flooring. That is an important consideration. For example, there's a saying that 90% of people hate carpeting, and the other 10% hate your carpeting. And that's something to think about. But if you're looking for a house, that's something that can easily be fixed, but it is also important. Hardwood flooring, for example, is one of the best rate of investment returns you can make. If you're going to do anything to a home, think of replacing carpeting with hardwood floors is one of the best returns on investment that you can make. So, maybe you want to find hardwood floors in the first place, but if you can't, you can always replace carpet with hardwood floors. That's a great tip for house hunting. So when you're home hunting, you know, 4 of the most popular things that people look for, and I encourage you to look for in a home, given that you have a lot of choices, are the number 1 thing would be hardwood flooring. The second thing would be an open floor plan. Third would be granite countertops. And the fourth would be stainless steel appliances. Those 4 things, if you can find all those in a home, that's going to put that home choice above an identical house plan that has only maybe 3 of those. So maybe it has carpeting instead of hardwood flooring, or it doesn't have granite countertops. So those are the 4 things you want to really consider. You know, if you see 2 homes that are almost identical, go for those big 4: hardwood flooring, open floor plan, granite countertops, and stainless steel appliances. A tip for house hunting is, if it's within your budget, try to find a home with 1 extra room than what you're really looking for. If you're thinking you need a 3-bedroom home, try to find a 4-bedroom. The reason is the extra rooms have major values. Firstly, extra resale value if you're going to sell your home, possible rental income if you can rent that room out, and thirdly, extra space, extra storage space. And the bonus room you can always turn into either an office space, a media room, or a guest room. So if you can, try to, or also they make good gyms, so a home gym. So if you can, try to find a home within your budget with an extra room than what you think you need. House hunting, a critical part of every house, of course, is the kitchen, depending on your lifestyle. If you use a kitchen, or if you don't use a kitchen, it may not be so important, but in terms of resale value and a good investment, here are some key things you definitely want to look for in a great kitchen setup. First of all, a big functional island. A kitchen island is a great feature. Maybe it also has a breakfast bar right there. Secondly, a walk-in pantry is a great thing to have in a kitchen. Third thing is commercial style appliances, or stainless appliances are a great thing. And also some kind of coffee bar. So there's some things to look for when you're looking at homes and you're going house hunting. Try to look for those things in your kitchen. So when you're house hunting, obviously you've looked at location, and then the next thing often that's most important is the square footage. So what's actually included in the square footage of most homes? Well, firstly, obviously bedrooms, bathrooms, closets, stairwells, enclosed patios, hallways. These are all included in the square footage of the home, but what's not included usually is the garage space. If there's an open patio, or there's a deck, if there's some kind of shed, or there's a pool house, those things are not usually included in square footage. So when you're looking at 2 comparable homes, make sure you take those factors of what's included and what's not included in the square footage into consideration. And you're going to hear the term comps, which means comparables. It's mean you compare one home to another. We're looking at 10 homes today. How are you going to determine which one you like the best? Then you break that down to maybe 3 homes that are on the absolute top 3 list. When you look at those 3 homes, how do you compare one to the other? That's where comps come into play, and that's where a real estate agent can be really helpful. How many bedrooms? How many bathrooms? What's the square footage of those areas? Do they both have open floor plans? What's the garage size? Do they have open patios, closed patios? Do they have decks, pools? All those things are taken into consideration, and also the neighborhood, the access to schools, shopping, all those factors are taken into consideration in comps, which is short for comparing homes. Hunting, one of the big questions you need to ask is, do you want to live in an HOA or a non-HOA? HOA stands for Homeowners Association. So as you may well know, for example, in condo complexes and townhomes and in newer subdivisions and new builds, when you buy a home, you'll often also have to belong to the Homeowners Association. There's a monthly fee between $100 to $300 normally. Now, quickly, the advantages of an HOA is you don't have to take often care of lawns. You might have a pool that comes with it, a community pool, spa. There might be a clubhouse, and also they might take care of certain repairs like painting the exterior of the home, like in condos and townhomes. So there's a lot of advantages, and they also can sell for more down the road. Hunting, one of the big questions you need to ask is, do you want to live in an HOA or a non-HOA? HOA stands for Homeowners Association. So as you may well know, for example, in condo complexes and townhomes and in newer subdivisions and new builds, when you buy a home, you'll often also have to belong to the Homeowners Association. There's a monthly fee between $100 to $300 normally. Now, quickly, the advantages of an HOA is you don't have to take often care of lawns. You might have a pool that comes with it, community pool, spa, there might be a clubhouse, and also they might take care of certain repairs like painting the exterior of the home, like in condos and townhomes. So there's a lot of advantages, and they also can sell for more down the road. The disadvantages are HOAs leave you with a feeling of, well, who's really in charge of the home? Because there's a lot of rules, for example, of, you can't repaint your house maybe a certain color, external windows, you have to have them up to certain specifications. You might get a letter of complaint from the HOA if your yard looks too messy, and so there's a feeling oftentimes, well, whose house is this anyway? So that's like the plus and minus of an HOA. You might want to put a pool in the front of your house or the back or something, and the HOA won't let you, and sometimes there are pet restrictions. So these are the factors to consider. There's really a lot of advantages to being in an HOA, but that doesn't work for everyone. So you need to decide, what's more important to you. That's a brief nutshell of HOAs. House hunting as a first-time home buyer. Another question is pool or no pool? What are some advantages and disadvantages of having a pool? Well, firstly, pools will increase the value of your home. It's obviously great for entertaining. It's good exercise, and of course, obviously, the obvious benefit here in Las Vegas in the summertime, it's great to have a pool. The disadvantages are they're costly to maintain and upkeep. Anywhere between $100 to $200 a month you can expect for upkeeping a pool. They can make your house more difficult to sell. Some people don't want to have a pool. It is dangerous for children. So there's some of the advantages and disadvantages. Sometimes, if you don't want a pool, you might be able to get into an HOA that has a community pool, for example. Experience, I find that a lot of people who buy pools often regret having it because they don't use it enough, and you do have the extra maintenance. However, some people love their pool, and it's a central part of their life. The question to ask, of course, is do you want a single-story or a two-story home? What's some advantages and disadvantages of each one? Well, first of all, single-story homes are very popular, by far more popular than two stories for a number of reasons. Firstly, generally they have a more open floor plan, and there's less danger in general with staircases, say for elderly and very young children. That's always a concern when you have a two-story home with staircases. And single-story homes, generally have less problems in terms of heating and air conditioning. So there's some of the main advantages of a single-story home. One disadvantage, though, of a single-story home can be privacy. In a single-story home, the big common areas like kitchen areas, it's like a common area, so you're going to have people flowing in and out near where your space. The great advantage of a two-story home is if you have like multi-generation family living in a home, or just rowdy teenagers, you can put them on one floor and you can live upstairs and get away from each other. That way, in a single-story home, the big common areas like kitchen areas, people flowing in and out near where your space is, whereas in a two-story home, you can get away from all of that. So that's one of the main advantages. Of course, you also have maybe you have better views in a two-story if you've got to mountains or ocean or something like that to take a view in. And two-story homes tend to be less prone to burglaries. They tend to be safer, so that's another advantage. To think about with house hunting is a garage space. That's critical for some people. Some people wouldn't even consider buying a house that didn't have a garage space. Even, if you're not using it for a vehicle, you can always convert it into like a gym space. Some people convert their garages into like a rental space. So there's a first-time home buyer, especially if you're buying into certain, say, condos or townhome complexes. Sometimes they don't come with an attached garage. They might have, an outside covered garage parking space for you. So, that's an option that will generally mean, the price of the house will be more affordable without the garage space. So that is an advantage if you don't have one. But obviously, when you do have one, you've got that extra space. It's nice to have, and it can be converted into something, really useful too.